Hi, Chuck Etheridge here. With my spiffy haircut, you'll note the reason I don't have glasses on is the glare is terrible at this particular angle, and I didn't want to blind you. I'm very pleased with the work that y'all are doing. I know I keep on saying this, but I'm always amazed with this class. Y'all are trying a bunch of very difficult kinds of writing. You're doing it well. You're adapting, you're changing, you're giving each other good peer review. I'm really pleased with the job that y'all are doing in this class. This week, we turned to grant writing. Now, bear in mind, I teach an entire class on grant writing, and I don't think it's realistic to give you the overview of the process. Hi, Chuck Etheridge here with my spiffy haircut. I don't have my glasses on because I didn't want to blind you with the glare, because the glare is really bad. Actually, yeah, it is pretty bad this week. But I'm really pleased with the work that you guys are doing. I know I keep on saying this, but this is a remarkable group. I've thrown all kinds of different kinds of writing at you. You have responded. You've done good work. You've taken criticism. You've supported each other with peer review. And you keep on getting it done. I'm as proud as a papa of this particular group. Today, or this week rather, the process is grant writing. I know it's long and involved. I teach an entire class in grant writing, so I don't expect you all to complete an entire grant application. What I'd like you to do is get a quick overview of the grant writing process. And I think a realistic project to do in the amount of time we've got is a letter of intent. I'm going to talk about that first and then loop back and talk about the grant writing process just a tiny bit. But the letter of intent is in some ways a grant writ small. You would write to a funding agency, you would describe the process of what you want to do. You'd describe your project, you'd describe how the money was going to be spent, and probably include a quick budget, and they would evaluate your process and determine, hey, is this something that we're interested in seeing a full proposal about, learning more about or not? Not all granting agencies use the letter of intent, but for those that do, it's an advantage because you can kind of work out the grant application. You send it off, and then if the funding agency tells you to send your full grant in, it's not a guarantee that you'll get it, but you're much more likely to get it than you would if you just sent it in cold as well. So that's what we're going to work on, a letter of intent, along with what I ask for, a realistic budget. And when I ask for a realistic budget, I'm not talking for a Cadillac, I'm not talking about a car under $4,000. You need to make a budget that will allow you to get done what it is you need to accomplish. Because remember, grant writing really isn't about money. It's about using money to do things. And I know that sounds strange, but if you have a job that requires $20,000, if you get a grant to do that job, you're going to have to do the job. And if it costs $20,000 and you only requested 12 or 15, you're still going to have to do the job. So you want to build in a realistic budget. So, that being said, here's Dr. E's very quick overview of the grant writing process. First of all, you start with what you want to do. You need a project, a very specific thing that you want to fund. You don't dollar chase. You don't say, oh, look, there's $300,000 out there. Let's go out and get it, because it'll create a mess. I can tell you long and hard stories about people who got grants they had no business getting because they went out and dollar chased. I want to get this $300,000. The road to hell is paved with good intentions and sometimes funded grant applications, and that's all I'll say. So once you've got a good project, I want to fund this, then is when you begin looking for funders. And there are three funding streams. There are private foundations, there are government agencies, state and federal, and then there are private corporations. So, and there's advantages and disadvantages to each. And again, if you take the class, I'll tell you the whole thing. But once you've got selected some possible funding agencies, you want to make contact. Hi, I am Chuck Etheridge. I'm a volunteer grant writer working on behalf of the Food Bank of Corpus Christi, and we're requesting $20,000 to support our efforts to deliver fresh fruit and vegetables or perishables to the elderly and rural communities in the coastal Bend area. You see what I did? This agency blank needs this amount of money to do this job for these reasons. So you need to think about, we need what money to do what, and have that pretty clear in your mind. Then, most important step of the process, honest and for true, you contact that funding agency and you say exactly what I just said, your spiel. I'm Chuck Etheridge. Well, you would say I'm Chuck Etheridge, obviously, but I am me, volunteer grant writer or grant writer on behalf of this organization, requesting this amount of dollars to accomplish this. Is this the kind of project your organization would consider funding? And you're going to get 3 answers, and they're all good. First answer is no. That's good. You didn't waste your time writing a grant you didn't have a chance of getting. Second answer is no, but you need to check with this other organization because they're funding projects like this. That's a win as well. I've got a current student who's looking to fund some missionary work in Africa this coming December, and he was striking out. And then he finally got a referral to another agency. He said, these are the organizations that are funding healthcare missions in Western Africa this year. That's what he needed. So, second possible reply is no, but have you checked with? Third possible reply is, yeah, we'll consider that proposal. Send it on in. So, once you've done that, then you've selected a funder that's likely. Then they're going to have either funding criteria or a request for proposals. You read it like the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, and every love letter you've gotten from the person you are most romantically interested in your life. And then you've got those criteria, and I'm simplifying a very complicated process, but you read the criteria and you give them exactly what they want, in the order they want, in the format they want. It's not a guarantee, but you want to create a user-friendly document that clearly meets the criteria that they want. You'll likely have a lot of questions, and that person that you initially contacted, usually the grants project officer, they'll call them with a series of questions, and they'll say, yes, you can do this. No, you don't do this. Have you considered that? So keep that conversation going with them. 2 other things to consider. One is there a lot of support material that goes with a grant application, and you'll want to spend as much, you'll want to get that early rather than late. 2, the second thing is you want to have some kind of work plan or timeline. You want to identify for every project you're doing who's going to do what with what money when, because that's a very important part of your credibility. This work plan demonstrates that if this agency gives you the money, you can do what you want. So we've talked about very, very much overall about the process. A couple of other things to consider at the very end. There is generally one person within an organization who has the authority to send out grant applications, and it almost certainly is not you, unless you're the executive director or the financial officer. At TAM-UCC, the university where I work, it's not the president. It's not Dr. Killeber who has the authority to sign off on grant applications. There's one person who's been through a lot of training and understands contracts, and that individual is the only person who has the authority to sign off on grant applications. So you need to figure out who within your organization has the authority to send out that grant application. You can go an entire career as a grant writer and never send out a grant under your own name because you're working on behalf of other organizations or the organization that you're working on behalf of there as well. So figure out who sends out that grant application, who has the authority, and make sure you've met all of their rules and criteria to send it out. And the last thing is submission. Submission will be either electronic or snail mail or physical submission. If it's a physical submission, leave yourself lots of lead time, 2 or 3 days before the grant application is due, to get it sent off, because overnight mail out of Corpus Christi doesn't work. And even if you live in a larger city, there's no guarantee it'll physically get there in time. So you don't want to do all the work, send it off, and have it get there after the deadline, because they will not take your grant application after the deadline. And if it's an electronic submission, it doesn't mean it's quicker than mailing it off or something like that. Because often the funding agencies, you have to pass a test or fill out a quiz or register and download software, answer a bunch of assurances, and it can be a 2 to 3 day process just to sign up and get your grant, get ready to send your grant application off. And then there's the uploading files. Sometimes it's cut and paste, sometimes it's uploading, sometimes things won't work, sometimes there'll be questions. So it can take 3 or 4 days to electronically submit a grant application. So don't equate electronic submission with the ease of attaching a file to an email. It's usually a much more complicated process than that. So even if it's an electronic submission, leave yourself several days to send it off as well. That's a really brief overview of the grant writing process, much of which may not apply with what we're doing. Right now we're going to focus on creating a good project, identifying what it's going to cost, and creating a good solid letter of intent that you can use to give to a granting agency. And maybe they'll request your full proposal. Looking forward to reading your work, and you take care. Talk to you soon.